You are listening to Offensive Lines with Marlon and Boyd. Small stakes NFL gambling for the average fan.
Welcome to Offensive Lines. I'm Marlon.
I'm Boyd.
And here we are, coming up to the Super Bowl.
You know, every year doing this, and we've talked about it off air, we hit a wall at somewhere in between week 8 and 10, where jobs and everything else going on in life, and we do this out of enjoyment, but it becomes a bit of a grind about week somewhere in there. And now we're at the end, and I don't want it to be over. You know what I mean? It's fucking
absolutely.
weird.
Absolutely. Like, you're right. It's about week 8 to 10, and we're recording 2 nights a week. And at some points, we're setting up, and it's just like, man, I could really just go to bed.
Yeah, or
once we record, we're fine, but it's...
Yeah. It's like anything else. Some days you're just not into it.
And this week off from football gambling was hard on me. Like, we went and gambled the horses because I was getting a gambling Jones.
Yeah. Yeah, that was fun yesterday, buddy.
Yeah, I had a good time. You carried my ass. I could not pick a winner.
Horseshoe falls out of my ass every once in a while. Because the 2 times before that, I couldn't pick fuck all, and I felt your pain yesterday because I was fucking in the same boat. But we did double up on one, so that was good. I gambled all day for $6. So I can't complain. $6 for entertainment.
Oh, yeah. It's the call. I lost about 30, but I was making some silly bets on my own, I was chasing, which is foolish in any gambling endeavor.
Yeah. I stayed disciplined, which isn't like me. I'm usually right behind you, throwing up try bets and shit. Well, and I did take a few foolish stabs when the track was like fucking slop at Santa Anita. I tried picking some longer shots thinking, well, usually with the tracks muddy, the favorites aren't always the best bet, but it turned out most of the time they were.
Yeah, it was a big day for favorites on both the tracks we were betting, but...
Yeah. All right, let's get into some football.
Okay. So, the line is currently Carolina minus 5.5 versus Denver. It opened at 3.5. There's been a flood of public money on Carolina. But I personally, even at 5.5, this is one of the hardest Super Bowls to handicap that I can remember.
Well, for me too, because I've gone back and forth on reasons I should pick each team. But it's so fucking close. Like 15 and I've seen good teams. We've seen New England fucking 18-0 heading into the Super Bowl lose. We've got Carolina's 17-1 now going into the Super Bowl.
Yep.
It's just I'm leaning Denver.
I'm in agreement, particularly at 5.5. I was hoping it would get to 6, but that's not going to happen from the numbers I'm seeing.
Well, there might be some late money come in and push it to 6, but at 5.5, it's essentially 6 anyway.
Yeah, I mean, it's not worth waiting for. But...
It's just we don't get the benefit of the push at 6. No, we don't get the benefit of the push at 6.
Yes.
But it's essentially 6 now at 5.5. But I can't get out of my head that in the past Super Bowls, when you had this seemingly juggernaut offense against one of the top defenses, that the offense didn't come out looking like shit. And I think the problem in the NFL is there's so few really good defenses nowadays that these offenses don't know how to play against them, even Brady. And that's the other thing that's stuck in my head, If Wade Phillips can do that to Tom Brady, what the fuck are they going to do to Cam Newton?
Yeah, I mean, there's one thing about that, though. New England was the most one-dimensional team that I've seen in a long time. They had no run or threat of run.
Yeah,
which did open up the options for Wade Phillips.
Right, but Carolina, outside of Ted Ginn, who do you have to roll a safety over to help a corner?
Yeah.
The only thing I can see is if Denver's safeties can't play, where they're in trouble with Olsen. But
at least one of Denver's safeties will be out there, and when you're talking about if there's anybody who's going to be doubled, I would say Olsen's.
But you're still going to have to roll a safety. Carolina will run Ginn down the field, just straight sprints to get Olsen open, take a safety off, because you're going to have to roll a safety over the top on Ginn if he's running straight down the field.
Yeah, Denver's cornerbacks are excellent, though. Just
I know,
excellent.
But I haven't seen a corner that can stay with him.
No, and
so you're going to have
his
help
50%
over the top.
Drop rate.
You still need help over the top.
Now, I was going through game logs. About the only game where Denver faced a truly mobile quarterback, and he's not the same thing at all, but it was in the Indy game. That was a little disturbing, because Andrew Luck did have 6 carries for 34 yards. And Frank Gore had 28 carries for 83 yards. Denver lost that game, but only by 3 on a 55-yard Vinatieri late field goal.
And Manning had 2 picks.
Yes.
That set up scores. Like, I saw the stats of Manning. He's about 55% in the playoffs. 2 touchdowns, 467 yards, and no interceptions.
Yeah, I mean, he's playing his role very well.
They remind me of the Elway Broncos so much, it's sickening.
Well, and that's what Elway built the team to be. He knew he's smart enough to know that he didn't win those Super Bowls late. It was a good defense and a very cautious team. Like, they did have a much better running game than this version of the Broncos, but he did try to create the team in the image of his 2 Super Bowl winners. And that's not a bad philosophy at all.
No, because nobody's playing that way.
No. And looking
Nobody's
at Carolina, both the only 2 good defenses they faced were the Seahawks twice.
Yeah.
And both of those games were strange. I mean, the Seahawks had clamped Carolina until 9 minutes left in that game. And then gave up 2 late touchdowns in the first matchup.
Yeah.
And that second one, I mean, both of these Carolina playoff games, they've just come out so hard and strong that they've left their opponents shell-shocked because they've gotten every bounce in the first quarter. I don't know that I mean, it might happen again, obviously, but it's certainly, I don't think it's something you can predict happening again.
No, and I think it's different. Playing in the Super Bowl is totally different. The atmosphere, they're not going to have the crowd noise. Like when they got up 17-0 on Arizona, I mentioned it last week, Arizona panicked. But there's not going to be that same momentum if Carolina scores early. And one of the biggest factors for Carolina is Thomas Davis. He's going to play with a broken arm with 11 pins in it 2 weeks after breaking it. What the hell is he going to tackle with that hand or arm? I know he'll have a big club on it, but what the hell's he going to do?
Yeah, you still can't wrap up effectively.
Is he going to finish the game? Does he play a quarter or half a quarter? And that's easy. Him and Kuechly run that defense.
Yes.
So, and we know, or we've talked about, Carolina has trouble on slot guys.
Beyond Josh Norman, who is outstanding, I mean, I said this about Arizona, and yeah, we all know the score of that game, but I would be, anytime one team commits 7 turnovers, they've got no chance of winning. 0. I would like to see if any team has committed 7 turnovers and won a game in history.
Well, Emmanuel Sanders could have a big day.
I was saying to a coworker today, I think he's crucial. The most important player on Denver's offense.
That and the running game.
Well, they've just got to stick with it like they did against Pittsburgh.
And New England, they did the same thing. Even though they were getting stuffed, they still ran it. And then they busted one. And it was the deciding play of the game, really. Set them up for the last field goal. So, and that was their only points in the second half. Wade Phillips, outside of Belichick, is the best defensive coordinator in the NFL since I've been alive.
Agreed.
So, I can't believe that an offense, and they've put up good numbers, but they're still limited. Carolina's offense is still limited. And I know Cam's an X factor, but I refuse to believe. I watched Michael Orr in Tennessee for a year. I refuse to believe that offensive line, which was in shambles the year before when they finished 7-9, is that greatly improved by adding Michael Orr. And he's protecting the blind side. He's playing left tackle. So I could see Von Miller lining up on the left side this week. A lot more, or on the right side of the Denver defense, on the left side of Carolina's offensive line. I could see him lining up against Orr and see what he's got.
Well, it's Von Miller or DeMarcus Ware. I mean, I agree Von Miller's the much better player at this stage, but it's not like DeMarcus Ware. I think DeMarcus Ware can beat Michael Orr.
Yeah.
I think a lot of it is discipline. Like, if they try any of this read option, as long as Denver doesn't lose their heads and pursue. But what we saw in that New England game, even though they played differently than they had all year, they played it with perfect discipline.
Yes.
They never over-pursued. That 4th and 1. They did not chase in any way once they flushed Brady. They just stayed at home and crushed Edelman a yard behind the line of scrimmage.
Yeah.
They're playing with discipline. A problem they've had a bit this year was taking penalties, though they haven't been taking those ridiculous defensive flags all game.
Well, they don't call it the same either.
That's true. Though, I mean, punching a guy in the head, Denver was playing out of control there in about weeks 7 through 9.
But I think that was the frustration on the defense. But now it doesn't matter. They're one win away from the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
It's like this. It's not, okay, it's the defense against the offense. Because back when that was happening, the offense was doing nothing. The defense was winning the games for them. So I have to go Denver. I hate Peyton Manning. I've said it 1,000 times on this podcast. It has nothing to do with the storyline, the this, the that. I'm going through history of the high-powered offenses in the last 10 years. Brady got beat twice. Who else? I referenced somebody else.
Well, we can even go to Manning against Seattle. Right? It was the high-powered offense that was supposed to put up a 40-odd against a great defense. I mean, that's another example.
Yeah. And that's in like the last 7 years, 8 years. So it seems every time the defense or the team has a great defense, they're the ones that come out on top. And to that end, I don't think it's going to be a blowout. Everybody's thinking, Newton and the Panthers. No. if people go back and can remember listening to all the chatter around Brady's Super Bowls against the Giants, it was the same thing they're saying about Newton and the Panthers now. It's going to be a blowout. This is a mismatch. We're going to crown Cam the new king of quarterbacks in the NFL. Every team's going to be looking for a prototype of him. Blah, 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 blah. Whenever it's that one-sided, there's something wrong. Like, that line was set at 3.5 for a reason.
Yes.
Vegas knows. There's a reason they didn't move the line in the Denver game against New England. Because they knew the money would pour in on Denver if they upped it a half point. That's what they were waiting for. The Sharps were waiting for the line to move half a point and fucking pound it Denver's way, and they didn't fucking move it. This line's moved 2.5 points. 2 points.
Two very important points by old football gambling numbers, which, may not be as appropriate with these missed extra points and that, but the average margin of victory for decades was 4. When it moves 2 points around that 4 number, that means all the action is on Carolina, and we haven't touched on it yet. Fading the public is not a bad idea. Vegas sportsbooks are in this to make money.
Yeah. And one thing I wanted to say, one thing we were talking about Carolina's offensive line and Denver's strategy against that. What I would do if I was Wade Phillips would be to not necessarily, unless it's an obvious passing down, you just push your guy straight back. Just like the teams Minnesota and St. Louis did to Russell Wilson at the end of the year.
Yeah.
Don't give him that cutback turnaround lane like when they like to spin out. If you push your guy straight back, he can only run up the middle. He can't get outside. He can't do anything like that. Denver has good linebackers, good safeties. I don't see, and Cam might, he's good enough.
Well, this is all might. I mean,
I just don't see that offense. If you can hold New England with the weapons they had, with Edelman in the slot, Gronkowski going down the middle, if they can cover that and confuse the shit out of Brady, I just can't see. I know Cam put up great numbers, and he's a good quarterback. But Brady's the best quarterback maybe of all time, and they fucked with them.
And I see it similar, too. I hope to see a relatively low blitz percentage like Denver used against New England. I don't think with this O-line you have to send extra guys much. That was the least Denver blitzed all year. And you saw them get through. I don't think this O-line is necessarily much better than New England's. And I think the linebackers, the middle linebackers, can... I mean, Jonathan Stewart's going to get yards, and that's a slight difference from New England, but I don't think he's going to rip a 69-yard rush on the first play like they did against Seattle. It could happen. I mean, maybe, but I mean, I'm less confident in this pick than some of our recent ones, but I still like it. I've got to take Denver.
I'm not.
Now,
I'm confident in this pick.
I do want to suggest a slightly different way to bet this, though. Okay, if we take the try-bet with any other result, we're getting functionally the same spread, right? Because that would mean that we lose that bet if either team wins by 6 or more.
Right.
But we're getting plus 200 at that number. So then, the one thing that would hurt us there, if we picked the right side, is if Denver wins by 6 or more. So we put $20 on the try bet, any other result, and then we put $10 on Denver to win outright, also plus 200. We're just getting a better price. Instead of paying negative 110,
Yeah.
we're getting plus 200 on both ends of that. And we can win both bets there.
Yes.
And we're not giving anything up on the point spread, because it's just, if Carolina wins by less than 6, we're still getting that, but we're getting it at plus 200.
Yeah.
And if Carolina wins by more than 6, we're just on the wrong side.
Yeah.
And that happens in gambling,
Yeah, and we just don't see it that way. So we
Yeah.
got to go with what we see. And
Yeah,
what I've seen.
we have to pick a side. And this is the side we want. I think we're just getting a way better return on our money if we bet it that way.
No, I'm in. That makes perfect sense to me. Okay, so we're taking Denver plus 200 on the money line. $10. Whoops, why did not? Oh, turn the numbers lock on. That might help. $10 pays 30. Booked. And then, so I just take him at plus 5.5?
No,
and then change it, or where?
No, you go
to three-way.
Yeah, it's a three-way. It's a try bet.
Yeah, well, they've got first half, second half.
No.
Quarter.
It's just called a try bet.
Yeah, but which category am I in?
Oh, boy. This might get fuzzy. Let me just fire up my bet 365.
Oh, I'll have to. I probably just have to go back. I was in game lines. I probably just have to go back.
Yeah, it took me a little while to find it today because that's where I got the price. So I know the bet's available.
Yeah, I just have never bet one there before like that.
Well, we did on last year's Super Bowl, actually.
Yeah, okay, well.
Yeah, well, only a year ago, man. You can't remember exactly how to move
Yeah, and
around.
we've done it once, but we've done it once before.
Yeah, I've done it a few times, but okay, is it?
Oh, there it is, try bet.
Yeah.
Under the main props. There it is. Carolina by 6 or more, Denver by any other result is
Any
what we're
other
taking?
result is what we want. Yep.
Okay. We're going 20 on that one.
Yes, we are.
A $20 bet. Any result of a team winning by less than 6 points, $20 pays 60. Booked. Wow. That'd be a nice payday.
Yeah,
Denver
and
wins.
we're not cutting either bet off here.
No, Denver wins by 3.
But instead of paying
cash
negative
$90,
110, and again, if Carolina wins by more than 6, we're on the wrong side of this anyway. We just picked wrong. And that happens. That's why they call it gambling.
Yeah. And when we're covered, we at least get our money back if Denver wins by
anything.
6.
If Denver wins by
6,
anything, because we've got them on the money line. So if they win by 1 to
15.
5, then we cash both
We hit
bets.
both.
If they win by 6 or more, then we get our money back. Go Broncos.
My sister's going to hate me. She hates Peyton Manning more than I do, and that's hard to do.
Well, and, I like Cam Newton. I like Ron Rivera. I mean, it's kind of funny. The head coach of one team and the defensive coordinator for the other were both San Diego defensive coordinators that I was very displeased to lose.
Yeah. Interesting. This is going to be fun. I'm looking forward to the game. And don't forget, folks, tomorrow we're doing a prop bet show.
And
which
that's
is
real fun.
Yeah. And that keeps us in the game no matter what the score. So I'm expecting a tight Super Bowl. Obviously, by the way we bet, we both are.
Yep.
I'm thinking it's a 3 or 4 point game, one way or the other. And I'm just hoping we're on the right side.
Of the Seattle beatdown of Denver, which we had Seattle all the way.
Yeah.
Through our props and everything, like we killed on that game. But Super Bowls have been pretty tight lately.
Well, and here's the thing. Remember when Denver went and got destroyed by Seattle? The AFC was pretty weak then, too. Just like the NFC is now. Carolina hasn't seen a defense like this all year.
The closest were those 2 Seattle games, which were strange games. But let me just bring up, like, their schedule has been really weak all year. I mean,
Green Bay wasn't what they were
They got to play the
supposed to
AFC
be.
South.
Yeah.
The NFC South, which is their own division, that's weak.
10 games. That's 10 games.
They got Philly, who was a train wreck.
Green Bay.
Seattle. Green Bay, who was certainly not what we were used to. Washington, who were better than we thought, but they did destroy Washington. But, they got some NFC East teams, but their opposition is thin. Even the Giants, were...
Well, let's just say this about the Washington game. Kirk Cousins hasn't beat a team over 500 in his career.
Yeah.
And they were in the playoffs this year. So, Carolina hasn't seen a defense like this.
Seattle is the closest thing.
But it's not as good as Denver's.
No.
They haven't faced a defense this good. And Denver beat Tom Brady twice. I don't know what else to go on.
No.
Defense, I will say this, as much as the league keeps trying to push offense down our throat, it's usually the team with the better defense wins the title. It's just that the old adage, defense wins championships, it holds true in every fucking sport.
Yep. And we can go back to the fact that Peyton never had a great defense like this. I think that relates a lot to his only having one title.
Oh, for sure. But I blame that on him too.
Oh yeah, you've brought that up before. If you take all of the cap money and then demand that the rest of the cap money be spent on toys for your offense, where do you get a defense?
Yep. But Elway built this team somehow within the restraints of the salary cap through the draft and whatnot. Picked up Talib, picked up Ware as free agents.
Well, I was reading a Peter King piece today. Elway's been in charge for about 5 years, I believe it is. 21 of the 22 starters were not there when he arrived.
Who the hell's left?
Crazy impressive. Well, that's a good question. Probably
an offensive lineman.
Yeah. But that's a pretty remarkable rebuilding job to, through that period, continue to have the highest winning percentage in football over those years.
Yeah. No, he's done a great job.
Yeah. He's not a foolish or stupid man.
Well, let's just say this. If the rumors hold true and Peyton Manning ends up in Tennessee somehow, I hope he's as good as Elway. Then I'll love him. If he can turn fucking Tennessee into a fucking perennial playoff team.
Well, I do think
I might even
part
tongue
of it
balls.
was Elway looking at this from a real perspective and seeing that what won him those 2 Super Bowls. Well, it wasn't all on him,
No, he was at the end of it.
Yep. And everyone remembers the helicopter, but his numbers in those Super Bowls were not really much better than in
Terrell
any of
Davis.
his beat-down defeats.
Terrell Davis. That was it.
Manning's
got
good
more
defenses.
weapons. Yeah, Manning's got more weapons.
Yeah, a much weaker running game. The O-line isn't quite as good.
No, but his receivers are sick.
Yeah, when they can catch the ball. Though I think Demaryius Thomas is going to be out. I have this strange vision of Vernon Davis, that they've just been teaching him the whole system and that they want to use him as the wild card in this one.
Yeah, go 2 tight end sets.
Yep.
Show them something they haven't seen. And especially with Davis fucking with a broken arm.
Yep.
I still think they try and run it down their throats.
Oh, I think you do that a lot. But, Vernon Davis, I know he sucked for a couple of years, but the man has talent.
Okay, and what's Peyton Manning's best fucking weapon? Play action has been his thing his whole fucking career. If they can get the ball going early on the ground, it's going to open up a lot of shit. And I think Sanders feasts on Cortland Finnegan.
Well, and slow the pace of the game down too. Don't let that. Carolina is capable of those onslaughts. Just try to keep things level and steady.
This defense, though, is like a good starting pitcher in baseball. It's never out of the game. They keep you in every game. That's why I think it's going to be close. Whether Denver wins or not, I don't know. But the game's going to be fucking close. You're not going to see Carolina romp like they did.
No, barring another series of wildly opportunistic bounces. But, you get into that, you just can't predict that
you can't predict
thing happening.
No. But Denver's defense has made plays to win them the game the last 2 weeks in the playoffs.
Well, and about 8 weeks through the year.
Yeah. I just couldn't bet against it.
Nope.
I've bet on Carolina all year. NFC was weak as shit this year. It was a way tougher road going through the AFC this year than it was the NFC. And the reason we picked Seattle is the reason we're picking Denver.
All right, to recap, we have Denver on the money line at plus 200. $10 pays 30. And we have the any other result in a try bet, which means that if either team wins by less than 6, we win at plus 200. We have $20 there, pays 60.
Right on. I like that bet. That was a good idea, buddy.
I appreciate it.
All right. If you want to check out our podcast, you can listen to it on iTunes or Stitcher for your Android device, on our website, offensivelines.ca. Follow us on Twitter at Offensive Lines for any updates to our blog posts or when a new podcast is available, or our personal Twitter accounts at OLinesMarlon or at OLinesBoyd, Facebook.com/Offensive Lines, and if you want to send us an email, it's offensivelines@shaw.ca. I'm Boyd.
I'm Marlon, and don't forget to join us tomorrow for our Super Bowl prop bet show.
Come on, Peyton, you got one more fucking game in that gimp arm.
Generous fucking gambler.